here's Brody Brazil.
This is going to be a video about when sports figures don't talk to the media. So it's kind of weird that I'll put this up and I'm showing you sports figures who did talk to the media. Playoffs? Practice? We talking about practice? And I took that personally, said Michael Jordan. And you can't forget Marshawn Lynch. Hey, I'm just here so I don't get fined, right? So those personalities were definitely not afraid to address the media. But I'm going to switch gears here to current Arizona Coyotes active owner of the inactive Coyotes franchise, Alex Meruelo. He recently had a press conference, and he literally said this about his interactions with the media.
Why haven't you made many public appearances over the past year?
Because I don't like the media. In fact, it's funny, I own 2 TV stations in Los Angeles, 5 radio stations in Los Angeles, and I've never once been on any radio or any TV. I don't like the media. I'm very... I avoid media for many reasons.
Let me translate that a little bit. I don't think anybody should take that personally. I think he doesn't like being a public person, yes. Right? And not that he dislikes the media, because as he says, he owns media, and all of you he wasn't referring to. It was some people don't like to be that out there in public. And, you know, he wouldn't be the only owner in any sport who feels that way.
Owner, athlete, coach, yeah, humans are humans, and that's where we're going to get into this conversation here. Sports versus talking. You can be really good at sports in one way or another and really bad at talking or presenting yourself or appearance or having an opinion or whatever it is, communication. We assume that most great athletes also have this great personality. I mean, they're just great at everything, right? They're better than most. I guess that could also apply to head coaches or people in a front office situation or ownership. They are so successful at something that they have to be good communicating, right? But I mean, let's be real. As somebody like me who's in the media, who does these interactions with great athletes, it's very clear to me that being a good athlete does not mean you're a good talker or communicator or you're comfortable with any of that at all. Some of the greatest performers I've ever witnessed in real life, like when you talk to them or when you put a camera in their face, they're totally introverted, and that's not a problem. That's just who they are. Athletes practice being great at their sport, and business people who eventually own sports teams, they're good at their business, they're good at their craft. They're not necessarily good at, holding a press conference or answering tough questions or being recorded, and some of them are great at it, and we love them for that, and we appreciate them for that. But not everybody falls in that category. Now, I said athletes before, but let's be very clear. This applies to athletes, coaches, executives, and owners, everybody across the board, whether you're involved in sports one way or another. You may not be comfortable doing this part of the job, but guess what? This is part of the job. This is like a truck driver who doesn't like stopping at gas stations, or an actor who doesn't like the hour-and-a-half makeup sessions before they perform their role. Like, you got to get made up, you got to sit in the chair, you got to get all powdered up and pretty to say your lines. Or it's like a waiter who only likes serving parties of 2 and 4 and doesn't like serving a dinner party of 20. I hate to say it, you're going to get tipped well. I know you don't like it, but it's part of the job. It may not be anyone's favorite part of the job in sports, like talking to the media, dealing with the media, but it's still part of the job. And I don't mean on an everyday basis. Nobody's trying to hound you down and knock on your front door and the paparazzi style. That's not it for me. But when the time and the place and the opportunity is right and everybody expects you to talk, that's part of the job. Well, I don't know what you do. There's parts of your job. If you love your job overall, there's got to be parts of it that are just not your favorite. I have that. I'll tell you what it is. It's preparing for pregame shows. See, I don't really prepare for a postgame show because watching the game is my preparation for the postgame show. But coming into the office, I spend a good hour, I go through notes, and really all of it's already in my head. So why am I preparing it again? Because you know why? It's repetition, it's routine, it makes me feel comfortable. It's kind of like taking batting practice for the 18,000th time. The Major League Baseball player who's been around the big leagues for 13 years, they don't need to really take batting practice one more time, but yes, they do. And so that's what I'm doing, preparing for the pregame show, but I don't like that part. It's monotonous. It doesn't do much. I feel like I'm just going through the motions, but I have to do it to feel right. Anyway, that's the part of the job, one of the parts of the job that I'm not fond of. But for me, it's still part of the job to do a good job. Now, I also want to say, I understand that some people in the sporting world might look at the media and they've had bad interactions and they've had bad experiences. I will admit, from being on the media side, because I've witnessed it, there are some evil media types out there. Evil might be a strong word, but there are some that have an agenda. And it's not always great. The agenda is more about favoring the media person than it is trying to showcase the athlete or at least tell the athlete's story or communicate that. Some in the media are for sure looking to exploit the hottest soundbite. They don't care about the ramifications or what it means. Hey, you know what? This is the one that everybody's going to want to hear, need to hear, and I don't care what happens because we're playing it and because it's going to go viral. We want to take the credit for it. We don't care what the ramifications are. There's definitely people like that out there. There's also people out there who are searching for topics and stories and angles. They're purposely ready to try and raise the temperature. Ooh, I'm going to go into that press conference with the head coach. I'm going to ask the spicy questions, right? That 100% happens. And there's nothing wrong with asking provocative questions or thoughtful questions or insightful questions or starting a really good conversation. But to do it with a bad motivation and bad intentions, like, I want to see both sides of this. The bad media side definitely does exist. And you know what? Even when it comes down to telling a story, words can be twisted and expanded incorrectly. So the media is not perfect here in 2024. I just want to state that before I go back to the athletes and the people in the sporting world. They are still obligated to face this. And my policy here is that for them, my advice, honesty works. You just have to be an honest person. It's okay if you say, I'm uncomfortable doing these interviews. It's okay to be uncomfortable. In fact, the more you admit that, I think the more people can relate to you. Hey, you know what? I'm just not good at this stuff, but I'll try and take your questions as best I can and give you the best answers I can. It's okay to avoid the spotlight for most things. If you're a owner of a team or a general manager, you're not supposed to comment on a 3-game win streak or a player who's been out for 2 games or just hasn't performed well. Like, that stuff is monotonous, right? Those are lower level headlines. For the big stuff, yeah, I mean, you kind of have to be present. It's also not okay to go up there and tell lies on purpose. And we can kind of tell the fidgeting, the body language, the looking around, we can tell when you're lying. It's not okay to tell lies, and it's also not okay to just show up only during the good times. Oh, you're on a 4-game win streak? Well, guess who wants to talk? Wait, what happened when the team lost 4 in a row? And again, I'm not saying that every player, every sports person, every single time something comes up, they need to be in front of a camera, they need to be on a podium, but occasionally, like, we can all respect when the time is right, when we haven't heard from you, and it's part of the job. It literally is an unwritten part of the job. It's not maybe the part you sign up for, but it's part of the obligation of being in professional sports in North America here in 2024. And I don't think anybody is seeking perfection or the best answers, just responsibility, right? Just the fact, honestly, sometimes the fact that you just showed up checks the box that everybody needed. So with sports figures in the media, it's okay to not like these situations or feel uncomfortable about the interactions. Totally get it. But to avoid it, to go against it inherently, I just have to say that should not necessarily be accepted. Simply part of the job. Hey, you made it here to the end of this video. You know I really appreciate that. Thumbs up down below. That'll greatly help me in this video and this channel. And by the way, if you're new here, I'm glad about that and happy you found me. But make sure you do me a favor right now. Go down and hit that subscribe button so I can definitely see you back here next time.